in the end, it comes out to Tom James. Good job! Oh, what a goal! What a goal for Tom James! Oh, that was special!
Well, good evening and a very warm welcome to Orient Live. It's a pleasure to have you here in the E10 studio, and just as it is a pleasure to have Joe Widdowson and Andrew Butler alongside me as well. And it feels like it's been the first Tuesday night under the lights for a long time now, but the O's travel to the Stoke area as it's pretty rainy up there, but the game is on, don't worry, and we're facing Robbie Williams' Port Vale. Let us entertain you. But it is an interesting one tonight. I'm sure we're going to come on to Port Vale and the state they're in, but it feels like a good opportunity to keep our unbeaten start to the year going.
Yeah, brilliant start. I mean, you couldn't kind of ask for these fixtures after coming back off such a difficult Christmas period that we came through with flying colours to then get Reading away, who are in a poor state. Carlisle were terrible, I thought, on Saturday and get the 3 points against them, and then Port Vale, who, like you said, are not in great shakes either. Coming straight off the back of that is a really, really good opportunity for us to keep this run going, and I'm quite confident about this evening's fixture.
But as a player, Joey, I feel like we could be playing anyone and the confidence would be so high that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think, obviously results have been so good, performances have also gone along with those results, really positive. And, when you just keep bouncing into games and picking up points, it just builds, momentum builds, confidence builds collectively, individually, and the boys will definitely be in a good place tonight, and looking forward to the game, I think, yeah.
Right then, don't forget that tonight, as it's a Tuesday night fixture, is available to stream both in the UK and internationally. That means you can pick up a streaming pass and watch along with us here on Orient Live from wherever you are in the world. Just head over to the link that is on screen now. And of course, if you want to get involved, send any messages of love to Joe Widdowson or Andrew Butler, or questions to pose to us, then just at us at Leighton Orient FC and Orient LOFC Live. But now, before we go any further, let's hear from the main man, the Gaffer, Richie Wellens.
Gaffer, Port Vale to come tomorrow, but first of all, if we look back to Saturday, having had a couple of days to look back at the Carlisle performance, how would you summarise it?
I think all in all a good performance, made a lot of chances, could have scored 3 or 4 more. I don't think we ever had to get to the levels that we needed to in previous weeks, i.e. the Portsmouth game or the Bolton game, Charlton game. Obviously we're playing against a team who are fighting for their lives and they tried to stay in the game as long as possible, but in terms of soul-making saves, I think the penalty in the last second of the game made it a little bit closer than what it should have been.
It's fair to say you were quite emotional after the game, and how are you feeling about things generally, again, having had a bit more time?
I feel fine for several reasons. One, obviously, is the transfer window, especially the last day or so, is very tough for everybody. And I didn't really speak to it and let a little bit of frustration off my shoulders, because sometimes men don't like to talk and they just bottle it up. But then I had a really good conversation. I was still frustrated driving home, and then Nigel rings me on the way home and we have a good hour talk in the car, and as soon as I put the phone down, my head has gone from being really blurry to being really clear. The weight is off my shoulders because I feel like I've had a really good conversation with him. You Southerners, you just make a mountain out of a molehill, because I am straight talking. That's the way that the area that I come from, and Mancunians can be like that. But they're trying to make things that are just not there. When I say that it's we, as a recruitment team, it's we, more than anybody, that's me. So I feel as though I let the players down, because we had a certain target in mind for 3 or 4 weeks, and that was the only target. Agents are ringing me saying, do you need any of this? I'm going, no, because we've got this target. And I probably rested on my laurels, got a little bit lethargic on that one, and was frustrated when I lost him. Matt Howell feels the same. Matt Howell was very, very good friends with the agent of the player. So we fought we rested on our laurels, and we shouldn't have put ourselves in a position that we ended up in. We've had some really good signings at this football club, some good processes, i.e. Ollie O'Neill. You know, Lingy identifies Ollie O'Neill when we watch him against us when he plays for Fulham. Lingy writes him down in his book and says, have a look at him because he played really well. I then watched the game back, watch him in a couple of other games. He looks really good. We then asked Fulham to come in. He trains with us for 3 weeks, plays 2 games, and then you look at that we've actually minimised every signing is a risk, but we've minimised the risk as little as possible. And he's come in and had a real good impact in his first few weeks. So listen. Sometimes I say things and I regret it, and it can come across. People can nitpick about and read into little lines, but there's nothing in it. My relationship with the chairman is, I think he's the best chairman in the Football League. I don't know them all, but if they're better than him, then they're very, very good. My relationship with Lingy is first class. My relationship with everyone at the club is brilliant, but we have a budget that I'm very, very happy with, and in terms of I'm going on a bit long here, aren't I? Sorry, but the budget in terms of, if you look at clubs with similar sized crowds to us, i.e. Lincoln's, Shrewsbury's, that mid-block of 8 that we speak about, obviously the big boys, when Butler are going and paying 750 grand for a player, that's really tough to compete with, but they are getting 20,000. That middle block of 8, our budget will be competitive. I know we're in London and we have to pay a little bit more, but our budget is very good. Now we have to maximise that budget to get where we want to get to. And we also have to realise that when a promoted team has gone up, our budget goes from a certain amount to a big amount with the same group of players, because the players all have 25%, maybe sometimes in some cases 50% increases with the same players. So as the transfer windows go and we get to the summer, the budget will be lessened. But yeah, I'm happy. I love it here. I absolutely love it here. So yeah, some people are making a mountain out of a molehill, and there's just nothing in it. It was just me maybe venting a little bit of frustration, but I was told off by Nigel, and if we're going to vent a little bit of frustration, Nigel's really good at, he's wrote his own book, Pushback, so he welcomes that, but let's do it in the privacy of our own 4 walls.
A really open and honest interview there from the Gaffer, and it's an interesting one, Andrew. We were talking about maybe the feeling after Carlisle on Saturday and the reaction to that interview. Obviously caused a bit of a stir in the post-match, but football is a game of emotions. And really, most other games where you're getting a 3-2 home win, a penalty in the 95th minute but still coming out on top, you'd be pretty buzzing, but there was a strange mood about it.
Yeah, it was a strange mood, obviously on the Saturday evening and the Sunday morning, but to be honest, I mean, I think Richie's right in making mountains out of molehills out of this. If the biggest problem that we have is missing out on one player that we can possibly identify in the January transfer window and maybe losing a player that we might not have wanted, I mean, that's a pretty good position to be in. And this kind of, I know that it's natural to nitpick and find things that are going wrong, but to be honest, I think it was totally a mountain out of a molehill. We're 9th in League One, had a phenomenal start of the season, a brilliant first half of this season, and we're tantalisingly looking at being dark horses for the playoffs. And I think, to be honest, that you'll find so few managers that are happy with transfer business, right? Because the nature of football is that your big targets sometimes don't come off. You have to make do with what you've got, whether or not that's budget or players that are available in the transfer window. And so you'll find very, very few managers who are genuinely happy after a transfer window.
I'm going to pull up and hold back on those dark horses of playoff that you mentioned, Andrew. There'll be no mention of that here just now. We'll keep going about our business quietly. But football's a game of emotion, Joe. I'm sure you've said things in a post-match interview after a heated game, a heated transfer window. Maybe you haven't been involved in the transfer window as much, but it is a game of emotions, and Richie was just showing that. But as he was saying, Nigel and Ken and the ownership of the club and the direction we've moved in since you guys got promoted back in 2018-19 and to where we are now, it's nothing short of a miracle.
No, it's been incredible, really. If you really sort of just sit back and look at the club's journey, and I think, that's accelerated since Richie's come in the door. I think, the way he's evolved the team, the age of the squad, the quality of the squad, the identity of how we want to try and play and what his teams look like. You know, it's come on leaps and bounds. And I actually think, to be honest, that interview, I didn't see the one on Saturday, but that interview just there from Richie is refreshing because it's so honest, and you know, he just tells it as it is. You know, he spoke emotionally after the game. He said what his thoughts were and how he felt, and then he also reveals what was said afterwards between himself and Nigel. And you know, he gives great insight to supporters and everyone involved. And you know, he's just so transparent. You know, he doesn't try to hide anything. And these are, to be honest, he actually talks about a lot of conversations that happen at clubs that are sort of kept under wraps and no one ever knows or hears about. So the fact that he's there speaking about it and just being honest and saying, look, that's how I felt. You know, I had a conversation with the owner, I cleared my head and felt much better for it. You know, I think it's brilliant personally. I think he's, you know, he just tells it as it is. And as a player, that's, you know, when you're playing for him, that's what you want. That's all you ever want from a manager. You know, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, you just want a manager to be honest with you. And I think that's what he gives to his players, to supporters, to the press, and you can't ask much more, I don't think.
Well, that's that one dealt with, and now attention turns back to this evening's fixture against Port Vale, and let's take a look and see the side that Richie Williams has opted for as we travel to Port Vale. And the eagle-eyed viewers there might be able to see, well, you don't have to be that eagle-eyed, but the Orient under-15s are currently playing against the Arsenal under-15s, and they're knocking on the door for a goal, but we'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated. But up in Stoke in goal is our number one, it's Sol Bryn. There's been one change, and that's in the back line as Brandon Cooper comes in to replace Omar, who's got a tight groin, and he's partnering Dan Happy, and in the full-back positions are Tom James and Ethan Galbraith. In the midfield, we have Jordan Brown and tonight's captain Idris El Mazouni, and after a fantastic return to the starting 11 on Saturday in that number 10 role is George Moncur, and our three attackers is Theo Archibald out wide, and then the two goal-scoring heroes, it's Shackford and Ruel Sotiriou. And on the bench for the O's is Sam Howes, Darren Pratley. On the bench for the first time is Dan Adu-Adeji, Ollie O'Neill, Rob Hunt and Keon Edwards. So, just the one change for the O's is that Brandon Cooper coming in, making his first start since signing his professional deal. And it's a shame to lose Omar, he's obviously so experienced, but maybe tonight is a game where you can maybe afford to lose that a little bit looking at the opposition.
Perhaps I think it's just a shame to just disrupt that rhythm. We've looked so solid. I know, admittedly, we conceded 2 on Saturday, but both goals were easily avoidable. One cannons off Vela's leg, and the other one was a 95th minute penalty that we shouldn't have given away. So we've looked so solid. It was has been the root of our success really in turning this season around and getting into the top half and looking upwards in the table has been Omar Beckles and Dan Happy at the back. So that's been brilliant. But having said that, you know, Brandon Cooper's back, and I'm sure he'll be really excited to get going again, because obviously he went back to Swansea, doesn't know what the next step in his career is going to be, and then he returns back to the club. Will be interesting to see how he gets on this time around at the club. And
I think it was a few games ago when I think Tom James had to drop out and Jen Sweeney came back in and did a great job, kept a clean sheet. When the defence are as well organised, well coached and performing as well as they are, is it easier for players to slot in and just pick up seamlessly where the previous player left off?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the back four, the back five, including the keeper, I think have been in a really good place recently. You know, we know all about Brandon Cooper now. He's made a really good impression since he came to the club on loan. I think it's a really good signing on a permanent deal, and I'm sure he's been eager to get back into the team because, you know, he was doing really well, had a really good spell in the team. Obviously, Omar's come in and performed very well. So, you know, you've got defenders in form, you've got players in form. You know, Jaden Sweeney steps in for Tom James the other week and does excellent. So, you know, Rob Hunt, it wasn't too long ago we were talking about him being really impressive. So, you know, you've got good competition for places in that back four. And, you know, thankfully, Omar missing tonight doesn't seem too big a problem because, you know, Brandon Cooper's more than capable replacement for him.
And Ethan Galbraith is one that we should probably give some love and attention to. Probably playing in a position that, if he was to be honest, he'd rather be playing further up the field or in the middle of the park. But he's playing at right back, and he's been one of our stand-up performers of the last good run of form we've been having.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember last season when Jordan Brown came to the club as a young player, and it was, everyone said, "Oh, he's a centre midfielder," and he had his opportunities at right back and played very well there at right back, and now has shifted back towards that preferred centre midfielder. I think something that Ethan Galbraith is so clearly capable of is that he's a very, very good technical player, and it's surely a good problem if you're a player who is a centre midfielder and want to be a centre midfielder, but the manager looks at you and goes, "Look, you can actually do a job for us at right back." And since he's been there at right back, he's excelled. Because he's so tidy on the ball, it just gives you that reassurance of being able to play out from the back. But the ball forward for Shaq Ford's goal on Saturday, where George Moncur takes it down excellently and sets up Shaq, was kind of started from him. So it's nice to see him performing so well in what might be an unfamiliar position for him, but he has been great of late, and he deserves all the praise he gets.
And we've got to talk about goals as well then. Shaq Ford has been, Saturday meant he equalled to become the joint top goal scorer alongside Sotiriou. Both of them bring similar vibes to that attacking line, and they're both getting the goals, and they're both looking to really be enjoying their football at their young age.
Yeah, they do, and I think you've got to give huge credit, not just to Shaq, but to Richie and the coaching staff, because, he's come into the club, he's a young player, still, learning his trade, coming as a centre forward, and he's just had this resurgence as a winger, and he just looks so comfortable out there, such a threat. His performances have improved game by game. He looks really confident now, and, for a while he was sort of out the team, not really featuring much. And then, he suddenly discovered that, he's now a winger, and he's performing really well, scoring goals. And I think the coaching staff have obviously worked with him. Sometimes at clubs, when players come in on loan and they don't necessarily hit the ground running, they can be given up on a little bit and maybe discarded and just. But I think they've really put time and effort into Shaq. They see the promise, they see the talent there, and they've worked with him, and he's now finds himself in a position where he's really excelling, in a position probably where he may not have seen himself playing, but the coaching staff obviously see a role for him there, and he's doing ever so well.
And a key part to getting your attack clicking is that number 10 role where George Moncur slotted in so nicely on Saturday. He is another one who's maybe been in and out the side, hasn't had a massive run of games, but he showed the class he possesses on Saturday, and he's set up the Shaq's first goal beautifully, and he's a player that if can get him going again and get him firing, he's an unbelievable weapon.
Yeah, absolutely, and the game against Carlisle it felt like it was tailor-made for someone like George Moncur, just that little bit extra time and I guess Carlisle's inability to get close to him allowed him to turn, get time on the ball, make the simple passes, but also be able to drive at players and cause them problems constantly. And I think that tonight will be a similar sort of affair for him. So obviously it's a shame that Sanders hasn't been able to play the last couple of games, because we were just talking about him getting his run in the side and playing brilliantly at number 10. But now Moncur's slotted in there, and on Saturday he was a real bright spot.
He certainly was. And then Sotiriou, we've got to focus on him now and discuss him in a bit more depth. We've got some clips of the goals he scored this season. I remember talking at the beginning of the season, maybe towards the end of last season, where you said if he plays a full season, plays majority of the games, he will get you a lot of goals. And he's shown that. He's nearly at double digits. We'll see here, he's just an out-and-out finisher.
Yeah, he is. He's just got that knack of sort of coming up with the unexpected at times. He's one of those players that he seems to sort of put away the harder chances. But there, for example, I think he shows great reactions. He looks like a real number 9, alive in the box, and I think we're seeing a great variety to his goals. He's there again, sharp in the box. He's on his toes. He's anticipating where the ball's going to drop, and he's just so alive to it. So yeah, I think we spoke about him before, just showing real maturity as a player, and he's really progressed this season. I feel like he's enjoyed that responsibility of leading the line and feeling like he's important to this side, which he is. and he's really been flourishing, to be honest. He's been excellent form.
And you've shared a dressing with him, Joe. I mean, you've shared a training picture as well. I'm sure he did that all the time. But from a personality point of view, having seen, he was obviously our leading goal scorer for the season. Having seen Shaq creep up in recent weeks and now equal his tally for the season, do you expect him to, even now he's got the 9 role, do you expect him to go out there and try and quash Shaq and kind of take a bit of a lead in the goal scoring department?
Yeah, he's a confident boy, Ruel. He's always been a confident boy. And, I think in terms of like characteristics, I feel like he's similar to Josh Koroma in that he likes to feel like he's the man. He wants to be the guy that people look to do something, to get to score, to create. He enjoys that responsibility. So I know he'll want to be top goal scorer, that's for sure. And but at the same time, he is a real team player. He'll work for the team. He'll sacrifice himself for the team. He'll play out wide, and he'll put in a shift wherever he's asked to. So I think knowing him, I'm sure there's a bit of banter going on between him and Shaq, about who's going to finish top goal scorer and some good competition. But look, they're two really young players still in good form. So let's hope it continues for both of them.
And just to pick up on what Joe said about his team ethic, because Richie brought it up in the post-match interview on Saturday about how he probably didn't touch the ball in the first half, but the running he was doing, the pressing, the movements, bring others into the game, that's what was impressive. And that's something, let's hold our hands up, we wouldn't have said about Ruel Sotiriou 2, maybe 3 seasons ago, would we? But now we see it.
And it's really important because, actually going back to my previous point on George Moncur, if you have a striker who's running the defenders ragged and just bringing them out of position, everyone behind you is going to thank you, because Theo Archibald is going to slip in field and take up interesting positions. George Moncur is going to be able to get on a half turn. Shaq Ford will be allowed a bit more space to run at defenders as well. And that's kind of, it's obviously a very, very tricky position to play striker, and that's why they're always so in demand. But if you can be a striker who can score goals and cause defenders problems when you're not scoring goals, then it's a really, really good attribute to have.
It certainly is. Well, let's stop talking about him and let's hear from him, because we've got an interview from him and we're going to hear his thoughts ahead of this evening's fixture.
And you were back in the number 9 position on Saturday. How nice was it for you? Because the Gaffer, really, really praised your performance after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, obviously I like playing 9. And obviously I just want to play on the pitch. I want to score goals. So, yeah, playing 9 was nice. And yeah, obviously first half I didn't really touch the ball, but I think kind of the game plan was me just to come in, let the wingers really run in behind. So yeah, worked well.
And back on the score sheet as well. Talk us through your goal.
Yeah, obviously Theo's done really well, and then he slipped me in, and then just used the defender as almost like a mannequin, just placed it in the bottom corner.
And how nice was it? We saw some great pictures of you.
Yeah.
From Simon, the club photographer. How nice was that feeling to be back amongst the goals?
It was more relief, to be honest. Obviously, when you're forward and you ain't scored in a few games, it's tough, like, to keep going and stuff. But yeah, to see that go in was pleasing.
Rion Duncan, and he's watching all the way from Arkansas. Thanks for getting in touch on X, Rion. And if anyone else wants to get involved on X, just at us at LOFC Live. And of course, don't forget that tonight is available to stream in the UK and internationally. You can pick up a streaming pass from wherever you are in the world for just £10. You can watch the game with us here on Orient Live. Just simply head over to the Match Centre on the club website. And you can watch along with Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock, and we'll be bringing you a rundown of all the drama at half-time as well. And of course, if you want to get your thoughts on the match in for us to discuss as well, just send them in on X. But now it's time to take a look at the home side, who are in a bit of disarray themselves, and let's take a look at how they're lining up. Well, only a few hours earlier, they announced the 3 managers who are going to be stood in the dugout, but we'll come on to that shortly. But here's the starting 11 that they've opted for. In goal is number 1, Connor Ripley. We have number 4, Tom Sang. Number 5, Casper Lapata. Number 9, Ryan Loft. 10, Ethan Chislett. 14, the captain is Funso Ojo. Number 16, Jason Lowe. 20, Janssen Weir. Number 23, Jack Shorrock. Number 27, Jesse Debra. and 29, James Wilson. And on the bench for Port Vale is Jason Lutweiler, Dan Jones, Nathan Smith, Connor Grant, Gavin Massey, Alex Martin and Bailey DePaper. And then going back to the drama that's unfolded in recent days really at Port Vale, their manager and first team assistant coach have both been dismissed. The person who I think most fans expected to step in has left as well. And now we have Will Ryder, Matt Dunn and Danny Lloyd taking charge of first team responsibilities. Must be pretty tricky, not for them to set up, but for also us to try and work out how they're going to set up.
No, I mean, it looks like they have made, amazingly, they've made some changes from their 3-0 defeat against Fleetwood at the weekend, which was a terrible performance from them. Andy Crosby's now been sacked after that loss from them. But they've made 4 changes as well this evening, which suggests a couple of things. Obviously, when you lose a game 3-0 to a team like Fleetwood, things aren't going right, but also the thing you have to make some changes because either the Tuesday, Saturday, there might be a couple of injuries. It's all a bit in disarray up there in Port Vale, and no one seems to want to be on the sideline even for them this evening. However, having said that, they're not a club in turmoil as far as I understand it in terms of their ownership. You kind of often find these sort of situations where the club's in a shambles behind the scenes. As far as I understand it, it's still okay. They're probably just having a few teething problems getting a new manager in, and so the players will still be wanting to do their jobs. They're 21st in League One. Obviously, they want to be staying in the league, so they are in a relegation scrap. And it's games like this where they can kind of turn around their form. They've still got a couple of very, very good players in there. Someone like Ethan Chislett's got 8 goals and 8 assists in all competitions this season. Very, very lively player in attacking centre midfield, and yeah, there's some decent players that will still be playing for them this evening, but you have to feel like, given what's gone on in the last few days, this is a game that we have to be eyeing up as all 3 points. Well,
You say that, but obviously as you've also touched on, 2 points, or they're 2 points above the relegation zone. They've got 2 games in hand, so they're very much in a position where they can get away from that danger zone. But that probably hints that they'll be scrapping and be a team fighting. But we're going to, while you answer that, we'll look at some clips. It looks like they might struggle to scrap a little bit, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously, they're a club, there's a lot of disharmony there behind the scenes at the moment. On the sort of managerial front, obviously, manager being sacked on the weekend, they're not in good form or playing well at the minute. But as Andrew said, they do have some quality in their team, and you never know what reaction you're going to get in these sort of situations. They might be really galvanised, and the interim staff or whoever it is that are taking the team tonight might manage to really sort of get them going, and it might sort of be, they might sort of come out fighting and really have a go tonight. So you just don't know what you're going to get. I think from an Orient point of view, you can't go into the game thinking, the manager's been sacked, they're in a bad place, therefore it's going to be straightforward. That won't be the case at all, and I'm sure Richie will be trying to drum that into the players. Look, boys, they're going to have to go up there. First of all, it's going to be cold, wet. I think you said, Ollie, up there tonight. They're going to have to do the basics well. They're going to have to defend well. They're going to have to be solid from set pieces. They're going to have to play the conditions, all those sort of things, those basics that you have to get right in football matches to give yourself a chance. But at the same time, we are playing really well. We're in a good place, and you'd like to think that as the game wears on, hopefully we can sort of manage to impose our quality on the game, and I think we should have too much for them.
Right then, well, the teams are making their way out onto the pitch up in sunny Stoke. So it's time to hand over now to our match coverage team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
he got the Man of the Match award. He is going to be someone to watch out for, isn't he, Matt?
Yeah, without a doubt, it'd be interesting to see how Port Vale perform. I think, like the guys in the studio were saying, it's almost an unknown quantity tonight because you've got 3 guys interim charge on the bench. There's a lot of disheartened supporters around the stadium. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of response, what kind of reaction you get from the home side after sacking the manager 24 hours ago.
It's an old cliche, but we've got to say it. Can they do it on a wet Tuesday night in Stoke? It isn't as wet as I feared when I arrived at 6 o'clock. There was a lot of surface water on the pitch. The staff have worked hard and it's drained very well. Not so far from here, Walsall's game's been postponed.
Yeah, certainly a lot of wet weather on the way up the M6, but I think the pitch here is pretty good. As you say, there were a few puddles, particularly around the technical area in the main stand, but generally I think it's okay. Fair to say it'll take a stud, but it's a big plain surface and it looks absolutely fine for me.
The O's in blue and forced to make one change.
Yeah, there we do. Brandon Cooper comes in for Omar Beckles. Richie Wellens pretty much said that post-match on Saturday that he would be making that change, so no surprise there. And to answer the question,